MKBHD made a brand new sneaker, and there's two really good things about him and two pretty major things that are not so great. So this is the latest version of the MKBHD and Atoms collaboration on the 251 model. And obviously they're calling it the 251 Low, making this the third sneaker in their catalog, the first generation being followed up by the 251.1, and now the low top version with some upgrades from the original, which after some of the feedback that I've seen online about the originals, hopefully they've addressed some of those concerns. Now the question I'm hoping to answer is, it's pretty simple. Is this a great product that can stand on its own, or is it just another YouTuber slapping their name on a product to make money? So of course we're going to be walking through each of the claims that they've made about this sneaker to find out. Now I'm sure most of you know who MKBHD is. He is basically the tech YouTuber. He's an amazing content creator, but obviously focuses on tech and hasn't really delved into the sneaker game until now. Now, Atoms, on the other hand, I'm sure most of you are not so familiar with. It's a relatively new sneaker company that was founded by a husband and wife from Pakistan. Now, the company's aim, like I'm sure a lot of other footwear companies, is to build the best shoe ever. And through their website, you can tell they seem to pride themselves on some major things like the quality of their products, the materials, and of course the comfortability. But none of that is really anything that stands out for a footwear company. Of course, they're all going to kind of make those claims along those lines. So why did Marquez specifically decide to team up with Atoms? Well, Marquez specifically talks about how he was inspired by Kobe Bryant, who had a lot of oversight and control over the final design of his shoes. Marquez was approached by other companies who essentially just wanted him to slap a name on a product and sell it. However, he wanted to really get involved with the design, the quality, and the final product in order to create something that he was truly proud of. And to be fair, there is a decent amount of design details on this pair of shoes that Marquez specifically brought to the table. But what both Marquez and Atoms say really set this sneaker apart is how they really prioritized comfort. Marquez wanted a shoe that he could wear every single day, walking around the studio, standing on his feet for hours, shooting content. So did they achieve this? Is this a comfortable pair of shoes? Well, I'm happy to say, yeah, it's pretty comfortable. First of all, they nailed the sizing on these. I went with my true to size and they fit perfectly. So if anybody's interested in these, I would recommend staying with your true to size. The midsole is going to be the main contributing factor to the comfort of these. They used an EVA foam in the midsole surrounded by a TPV kind of encasing. And even though that's relatively standard materials used in most other sneakers for the midsole, these do it pretty well, adding a lot of softness which you can tell underfoot. Directly comparing these to other shoes in a similar design category like the Nike Air Force 1 or the Jordan 1 or even the Nike Dunk, these are definitely softer and do feel more comfortable. It's only when you start comparing these to shoes that are actually trying to achieve comfort, like some of the more retro runner styles where they have like a super soft spongy midsole with some kind of knitted upper, that's when, yeah, you can tell these are not that level of comfort. But that's fine. These are clearly not trying to be mesh style runners. These are most likely as comfortable as you could make a sneaker with this silhouette. So good job there. So that obviously marks the first thing that I really like about these. The second is the laces. Now, I don't know if any other brands have done this before. It seems like a very, very simple concept, but I personally haven't seen it. So these are basically regular laces, but they are elasticated. It's such a simple design element to it, but it really does make a lot of sense. What this allows you to do is basically tie up your shoes like you would a regular pair, and then you still have the ability to stretch them and slide your foot in. So essentially this becomes a pair of shoes that you tie once and then never have to retie. So yeah, even though this is very simple, it essentially makes this pair of shoes kind of like a slip on and go, because you don't even have to tie it. You just pull like this and you're in. But things pretty much go downhill from there. And that leads me to the two things that are pretty major downsides to this pair of shoes. So first up is the price point. These cost $200, which gets even worse if you're trying to order them from outside of the US. Here in the UK, if I went to order these things, they would end up being £300, which is roughly $400. That is insanely expensive. Now, hey, as you can tell from what's behind me, I'm someone who does spend a lot of money on shoes. So I can understand a high price point if the materials are really good, or if there's some kind of tech in this shoe that makes it something that I can't get from other shoes. But I have a feeling that if you put this pair of shoes in front of someone and ask them, how much do you think this pair of shoes costs, they're not going to be anywhere near that $200 price. Open the box and tell me how much you think this pair of shoes cost.
80 bucks? 90 bucks?
£50?
90 bucks.
Giving Shein. Well, I'm a Shein fiend, and I know they're about 20 bucks, so I'm gonna go 20.
So yeah, unfortunately, those reactions are roughly the same reaction that I had when I opened the box and felt these things in hand for the first time. These do not feel anything like a $200 shoe. They feel like a more affordable pair that you would pick up at some kind of discount store, or like I'm sure some other people would say, Temu, Shein, Walmart, the list goes on. And this of course leads me to the second thing that I think is a huge downside for this pair of shoes, and that is just the materials. So one of the big standout features for this new low-cut version of the MKBHD 251 is that it's now made from apple leather. Not that apple, although I could see some people making the connection because of MKBHD. The apples that you eat, or in this case, the apples that you put on a pair of shoes. Now, when I say that this apple leather is an upgrade from previous MKBHD models, I say that with quotations because is it really an upgrade? Well, Atoms will definitely say that it's a massive upgrade because it makes this pair of shoes recyclable and eco-friendly. But the reality is, when a brand uses synthetic materials on their products, usually 9 times out of 10, it's going to be because it's a lot cheaper than genuine leather. And apple leather, of all things, is definitely not the most durable of synthetics, which definitely makes an argument for, are these really more eco-friendly? I mean, you're more likely to toss these things out for being, you know, getting a tear or just creasing up really easily because of this material than if you just had a more durable, potentially real leather option. I've seen a ton of different sneakers utilizing synthetic material as leather, and there's pretty much 2 different ways that I've seen them using it. Nike is a big one for this. They use synthetic leather in a lot of their different sneaker models, and they do also use that as a marketing thing where they say it's fully recyclable, we're helping the planet, and it's some, you know, kind of marketing thing. Kind of like the time where they created shoes out of the trash that they had lying around and created an entire campaign of 4 different sneaker models out of it. They charge you a premium for those things. But generally there's like 2 ways that I've seen brands use synthetic leathers on shoes, and the first one is obviously just super poorly. It feels like plastic, and it's something that looks terrible after a very short period of time. You get massive creases, it deforms the shape of the shoe, you get dirt in those creases, and they just look horrible. You end up tossing them out very quickly. I've also seen synthetic leather used in a decent way where it doesn't feel as plasticky. It seems like it's a little bit more elevated, a little bit more realistic to regular leather. Those would be more like things like the Jordan 1 uses that type of, like, it's still soft and buttery, but you can tell it's synthetic. But unfortunately, the material used on this MKBHD shoe feels a lot closer to those Panda Dunks, where it feels very plasticky, it creases up quite a lot. So after a little while of wearing these things, I can't imagine they're gonna look great. And that's not just the apple leather. The entire shoe feels very cheap. Like, all of the suede material is some kind of felt. The padding around the ankle area just doesn't feel premium at all. It feels like it's minimal padding, and it's not going to give much comfort. Like, you're not getting much comfort from this sneaker from the upper. Now, there is another material that Atoms added to this pair of shoes that does make it sound pretty revolutionary, and that is copper. So the idea is that they placed copper around the lining of this shoe so that they don't stink. Now, when I heard that, I thought, damn, copper in the shoe so that your feet don't stink when you're wearing these things and they last ages? That sounds like it might even be worth $200. And copper does have well-known antimicrobial properties, so its inclusion in sneakers could help reduce bacteria and fungi, which are responsible for foot odor. However, when you actually look into it, it's far less impressive than it sounds. Most of the studies showing copper's antimicrobial benefits are from medical settings. Things like hospital linen and textiles, just nothing that indicates its use case in footwear. And I think that's because for copper to be effective in this way that they're kind of promoting it as, it needs sufficient contact with the bacteria and the fungi. But then, of course, all of that only applies applies if they added enough copper into this to be effective in the first place. And we all know a guy who cuts shoes open for a living.
Then one really unique thing is they say the lining has antimicrobial copper threads all throughout the lining to prevent the shoe from stinking, which sounds like some BS if we're being honest. So we put the macro lens on it to see if we could see any copper anywhere. We put the lighter to it. We did everything we could, and I don't see any hints of copper anywhere. You know, maybe this tongue, there's a little bit of coppery color in the tongue, but if it's only in the tongue, what are we doing? And if there's so little copper in this that we can't even really detect it in any way, I can't imagine it actually has an impact on the odor resistance. At least not enough to be promoting it as a feature. So to me, it's coming off like a whole lot of BS. There could be some stuff on the inside that could be the saving grace of these shoes. Maybe there's something I'm missing on the inside. So let's cut it in half and really see if this is just a cash grab. All right, we got it cut in half. So what's on the inside? Honestly, nothing more than we expected, unfortunately.
So yeah, after all of that, the copper thing to me sounds like a gimmick. So the question is, who is this sneaker for? Because I think for the average consumer, if you're just looking for a comfortable, well-made, durable pair of shoes, it's probably not for you. But I don't think that's the target consumer either. It's obviously MKBHD's name. The bulk of what Marquez added to this pair of shoes is probably going to be the biggest reason you want to buy them. Because I think without Marquez on this pair of shoes, it is a very tough ask, especially at that price point. And to be fair, there is a ton of little details that Marquez added to these things, which I love. The name of these things being 251, it's a reference to his first ever video, which was 2 minutes and 51 seconds. His signature on the tongue is a really nice design aspect. And the fact that the color scheme of this pair of shoes is black and red, which is a very known color combo in the MKBHD sphere. Marquez loves Jordans, and that's what the design of this pair of shoes is inspired from. And just a lot of the practical specs of this pair of shoes are things that he genuinely wants for a daily sneaker. So I can see his fans really liking this pair of shoes, but in my opinion, this becomes more of an appealing option if you really only just look at them through the lens of YouTuber merch rather than a standalone product. And hey, I'm saying all of this as a massive MKBHD fan. I love his videos, and above all, I love his honesty when he's reviewing products. And that's what inspired me to make this video. But let me know what you guys think of the MKBHD shoe. Do you think it's worth the price tag, or is it just a cash grab? Drop it down in the comments, and if you want to check out another video, feel free to click that one right over there.